As a nurse for over 40 years, I saw how decisions in Washington affected the real people. I understand better than most the need for health care reform, but Obamacare was never the way to do it. Just ask the 16,000 Tennesseans who lost their health insurance through Cover Tennessee, despite the president's promise, if you like what you have, you can keep it. Or the 11 million small business employees that CMS says will see their premiums spike because of the law. The results are in. Obamacare was a mistake that hurts the very people it pretends to help.
All right, you go, Congresswoman. Joining us now, ladies and gentlemen, Sally Pipes, president of the Pacific Research Institute, healthcare policy expert, and author of The Pipes Plan, the top 10 ways to dismantle Obamacare. And Sally, as always, great to talk to you. You wrote a piece at Forbes.com. There's the book on the screen, by the way. Your piece at Forbes, Obamacare Punishing Working Class Americans. And I think most all of us have heard most recently about what's going on at Staples, for instance, correct?
Absolutely. The employer mandate, it is a disaster. It must be repealed. And Staples just, announced last week that they have 85,000 employees, that their part-time employees would be reduced to 25 hours a week because under Obamacare, the work week is 30 hours because of the cost of Obamacare. And the president was absolutely enraged by this. He said, well, I haven't looked at the price of Staples stock. I don't know the compensation of the CEO. I mean, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? The point is that companies cannot pay these exorbitant wages to people under the employer mandate or be faced with fines. And so therefore, they're reducing their part-time labor force. And who does that hurt? It hurts the very people who are working in part-time jobs, trying to build their reputation in the labor market and make a living for themselves and their families.
Right. And he went on to say, shame on Staples, shame on them. He should have said shame on them when he was looking in the mirror during that cockamamie video he made for that website where he mocked everything. And it's hardly only Staples. As you point out in your piece, Investors Business Daily says that 450 private companies and government agencies, too, have done exactly the same thing as Staples.
Well, absolutely. Target, Home Depot, Walmart, they've all been, doing the same thing because, if you're in business, you can't afford to lose money. The government, can run deficits and build up debt, and we, the taxpayers, pay for it. But that's not the way it works in the private sector. And so, yes, he should have taken a look in that selfie and said, is Obamacare really helping the people it was designed to help? No, and it's not leading to universal coverage or bending the cost curve of healthcare down. Even, in that article, even in schools in different states, they're having to cut the hours of the people that work as substitute teachers because they can't afford that mandate.
Yeah, you point out that a superintendent in Maine, Betsy Webb, testified and to a Senate committee and made that exact point. Explain to me where we are, because as bad as it is, Americans haven't felt it yet on a mass scale. When I'm talking mass, I'm talking 100 million. That's because they keep postponing mandates in parts of the law, and I think they're going to be postponed until after they try to get Hillary elected. And then, of course, the public can't vent their outrage at her or at the presidential election. So talk about what's still hanging out there. How many millions of people could still lose their company-provided health insurance once these mandates do kick in?
Well, there have been 24 delays under Obamacare, all done by the president, which, of course, he doesn't have the power to do. Those delays should have been made through Congress, and they weren't. So he thinks, he is a supreme being on this. The employer mandate, of course, was when it was introduced in the Affordable Care Act, it was to cover any company with 50 or more employees. Well, then they had to, make some changes. So only this January did the employer mandate apply to companies with 100 or more employees. And then so it was delayed a year. It's delayed another year for those companies with 50 to 99 employees. The big issue, I think, here is the Supreme Court will be hearing the case on whether the subsidies being paid to people on the federal healthcare exchanges, 34 states are part of that healthcare.gov, whether they are illegal, because the law clearly states that the subsidies were only available to those enrolled in state-based exchanges. if the decision in June, late June, comes down from the court saying those subsidies are illegal, employers are not going to have to pay those penalties and fines because the subsidies will be gone,
Right,
and therefore maybe we can return to a real workplace.
That would devastate the law, and that, of course, is King versus Burwell. And I believe they're going to hear those oral arguments next week, which, believe it or not,
on Wednesday, March
4th. Yeah. Sally, thank you as always. Great to talk to you.
Thank you very much. Great to talk to you.
All right, take care. Sally Pipes, ladies and gentlemen, and check out her Forbes piece. Obamacare is punishing working class Americans. It is a disaster. I wish the Republicans would would work on defunding that as well. All right, we'll be back with more of the Steve Malzberg Show. Don't you go away.